Yo, what is going on, everyone? It is GentooMan here, also known as Rainy, and this story time is, man, this is a big one. This might be kind of a longer story time. It's a bit of a weird story, a funny story. It's got a little bit of action in there. It's the complete package. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. So as you can all probably tell from the title, this story is primarily about Mormon girls. Let me just give you a little bit of backstory on this one. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before in story times on my channel, but I was raised in the Mormon church. I was born into a family that practiced the religion. I no longer do personally. If you do follow that church, that is totally cool. I'm not going to be that person who left and is super dick about it and is it didn't work for me, but if it works for someone else, that's great. My parents both are still members and it works for them, so I'm happy for them, but it wasn't for me, so I don't practice anymore. If you do practice, then that's cool. I'm happy for you. Totally cool with that. Just for some backstory, I was raised in that church though. So one of the things that you have to do, or I don't know if you have to do, it's just one of the things that exists for the Mormon church is I think it started in grade 9 when I was 14 years old. That's when the story primarily takes place, when I was 14 years old. They do this thing, I think they call it seminary. I don't even remember. It's basically it's church class before school. And it fucking sucked. And I hated going because it was at 6 a.m. when I already had to get up every weekday to go to school, but I had to get up even earlier to go to a church class that I didn't want to go to. So at this point, I already didn't care. Yeah, you're supposed to do it before school from grades 9 to 12, the last 4 years of school. And it sucked. I didn't really go the entire time because I didn't want to. But of course, the first year especially, my mom would always wake me up and she'd drive me, and I was pretty much forced to go. Now, there was some good news is that some of my friends who remain some of my best friends to this day were in that class with me in the morning because, they're my age. I went to school with them. And it's just funny little backstory on my friend group. A lot of us were raised in the Mormon church, but didn't really we didn't really follow the religion. We didn't really want to practice anymore, but we all thought that everyone else in the group was still wanted to. So one day, finally, my one friend said something. He's guys, I just have to tell you, I don't really fuck with this. I don't really believe in this religion. And I just wanted to tell you guys, I wanted to get it off my chest. And the rest of us were oh shit, dude, me too. But yeah, at this particular moment in time, we were pretty much bonding over we didn't want to be there. So obviously me being me and not wanting to be there, I didn't really pay attention to anything. I didn't really participate in class. I wasn't answering any questions. There's a sheet handed out. I wasn't really doing it. I was kind of just doing my own thing. A lot of the time I'd be sleeping because I was tired as shit because the class started at 6 a.m. So sometimes I was sleeping and sometimes I'd just be reading something on my phone or playing a game or watching a show. But I was never really paying attention. I just didn't do it. The one cool thing, though, is that a lot of the time at the end of the class, the teacher would have someone, come in, one of the other people who, taught there or just, worked in the building or whatever it might be. And they'd bring in, a bunch of fast food breakfast. They'd bring in, McMuffins from McDonald's or something or, I don't know, whatever they could find. Tim Hortons sometimes because I'm Canadian. So that was pretty fucking sick. But that detail leads us into kind of the starting point of this story. So, one day there was, I want to say it was a Thursday, maybe it was a short week, maybe it was a Friday. Oh, I don't know. All I know is it was the last day of school for the week. So I wanted to get through it. So this class ended. I stood up. I went towards the back table where all the breakfast food is. I got a chicken McMuffin, I think it was. Shit was fire. Then I went to the bathroom because I had to piss before I left the building to walk to school. So, I do that. I go take a piss and I start washing my hands. And I'm in the men's washroom, keep in mind. And as I'm washing my hands, this girl I know who was in this class with me, we're going to call her Kristen. Kristen walks in to the men's washroom and kind of makes eye contact with me. And I'm I think you're in the wrong washroom. She's oh, yeah, sorry about that. Hey, Rainey, I wanted to ask you, do you know if there's any, McMuffins left? And I'm thinking this is a really weird question to ask someone by walking into the wrong bathroom. You could have asked literally anyone else this question who would probably be better suited to answer it than I was. But I just kind of look at her and I'm I don't know, maybe, but they're not in here, and do a little awkward laugh. And she, like, laughs, like, properly, like, that's the funniest shit she's ever heard. And she's like, oh, okay, like, I'll go look, I'll go ask around. Thanks so much for your help. I'm like, yeah, anytime. I finish washing my hands, and then I find my friends, and we walk to school. And, school plays out pretty normally, as it does. It was, like, the last day of the week, like I said, so I just wanted it to be done. I was just trying to make my way through it. Fake it till you make it, almost. I wasn't doing a whole lot. I wasn't the best student when I was 14 years old. And I just wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be the weekend. I wanted to go home. I wanted to relax. I wanted to do nothing. And I got to my band class because I think I have mentioned this before in some of my stories. I was in band when I was in junior high because I'm a fucking nerd. But yeah, I was in band. And I went to my band class, and it was always a pretty cool class because I played percussion, because, why not? And I was in the percussion section with my friend, who is still one of my best friends to this day. He's a fucking legend. Shout out to you if you're listening to this. And then there's these two girls in our section as well. And one of these girls is someone who I went to this church class with. We're going to call her Ellie for the sake of this video. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that both Ellie and Kristen were, like, I don't know if you guys, like, know this, but you know how, like, the Mormon kids, they're often, like, friends with each other, and, like, the girls are friends with each other, but, like, the Mormon guys always like the Mormon girls, but it's, like, the same two a lot of the time. It's, like, Ellie and Kristen were, like, those two. They were, like, highly sought after, like, amongst the Mormon guys. This sounds like really, like, generalization here, but it's just a fact. It's just how it was. And, I mean, like, I don't know. Ellie was nice. I never had an issue with her. She was a nice person. I never had a problem with her. She was cool to be around, but I never really, like, saw her like that. She wasn't really my type. But anyways, I go to this band class, and I'm excited to hang out with my friend, and I get to the class, and he's not there yet, because we didn't have all the same classes. We just had that one together. And he's not there yet, so I don't see him. So I just kind of sit down, I go on my phone. I was probably playing, like, Rodeo Stampede or some shit, maybe looking at memes. And as I'm sitting there, Ellie walks up to me, and she's like, hey, Rainey. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, Ellie? How's it going? She's like, it's going good. How about yourself? I'm like, I'm doing all right. I'm tired. I want to go home. Shit like that. And she's like, yeah, no, like, I totally feel that. Do you have any plans after school that you're excited for? And I'm like, no, not really. Because truthfully, at this point in time, my plan after school was probably go home and sit at my desk and play Overwatch and slowly, like, deteriorate into my chair over the next 3 days. I didn't say that because I didn't feel like outing myself. But I said, like, no, not really. I don't have anything too big going on. I just want to get out of here. And she was like, oh, yeah, no, I totally get that. That's awesome. I'm actually having some people over, like, at my house, like, after school. Like, would you maybe want to come? And I'm like, oh, you like, having, like, a party or something? She's like, yeah, kind of. I'm just getting, like, a group of people to come over and just kind of, like, hang out, and, like, it'll be fun. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty sick. Who's going? She's like, oh, so far it's just, like, me and a couple of my friends, and, like, if you're coming, then you, but, like, don't worry, I'm going to ask, like, some more guys if they want to come so you don't feel so alone. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll be there. That sounds good. She's like, okay, awesome. Like, I'll see you after school then if you want to just, like, meet at my house. You know where my house is, right? And, like, I do know where her house is because, like, her family knows my family. Like, my mom's dropped off dinners there before and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I know where that is. I'll meet you there. And she's like, oh, okay, awesome. I'll see you then. And after this conversation ended, it definitely struck me, like, when you, like, agree to plans because someone comes up to you and they're like, hey, you want to do this? And you're like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Then the conversation ends. You're like, why did I agree to that? I don't want to do that. I want to go do something else. I want to be lazy. I don't want to socialize. That's kind of how I felt immediately after. But I'm like, shit, well, I agreed to this, so I guess I'm going. But I was kind of clinging to the idea that she said she was going to invite some more people, like some more guys. And, like, she knew, like, specifically she knew one of my friends that I was thinking, like, she'd definitely invite. But she knew a couple of my friends from that class because I was assuming she was only going to invite people from that class. So I was expecting a couple of my friends to be there. Now, I should have asked my friends this before I just assumed that, but I didn't. So, yeah, that was fun. So flash forward to the end of school. I'm leaving the building with a couple of my friends. They're a year younger than I am, so, like, they were just going home. They had stuff to do, and they weren't in the same class, and they weren't invited to this thing because they didn't know Ellie. So I was just going home with them, walking the same direction because, my house and Ellie's house are in sort of the same direction. And I text my mom and I'm like, hey, I'm going to a friend's house. I'll be home later. She's like, okay, cool. Have fun. Be safe. Don't die. Typical mom texts. So I split off from my friends. They go their way. I go my way. I walk towards Ellie's house and I get up onto her porch and I knock on the door. And within like 3 seconds, she opens the door. And she's like, oh, hey, you made it. And I'm like, yeah, I did. How's it going? She's like, not bad, not bad. Here, come in. She like kind of waves me in. I step in and I see in the front room that Kristen is there. And there's this one other girl who we're going to call, what should we call her? We'll call her Megan. So Kristen and Megan, who are two, like I mentioned Kristen before, but Megan was also one of the girls that I knew from this church class. And it looked like it was just the three of them. And I think like Ellie noticed that I was kind of like a little like thinking about like what that was about. And she's kind of like, yeah, no, I think more people are coming soon. It's just like you're here before everyone else. And I'm like, oh, okay, sick. So I drop my backpack down, like, and then I sit down with them. We start talking. And, I'm not the most social person. I mean, like, I try to be. It's just I'm quite introverted, as I'm sure you guys can probably tell because I record story times on YouTube. But I'm quite introverted. So I kind of was like there and would occasionally interject onto like a conversation the three of them were having. And I don't even remember what it was about. It was a while ago. So yeah, I'm just kind of there for a bit, just like kind of existing in this conversation that they're having. Till eventually one of them, I don't remember which one, but one of them was like, should we go watch a show? And Ellie's like, yeah, let's go watch something. And she's like, let's go downstairs. It has the big TV. So we all get up and I follow them down the stairs into the basement of Ellie's house. The basement looks like kind of unfinished and it's like kind of full of like old toys and stuff. And it's a little messy, but it's a basement. It doesn't have to be like the most pristine thing of all time. So we all sit down on this couch. Ellie turns on the TV. She opens up Netflix. I think she put on The Office because she like had a thing for The Office. She loved The Office. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like The Office too, but it's just like she kind of like overhyped it a little bit. I think it's a good show, but she overhyped it a bit. But that's what she put on is The Office. And the four of us kind of just sat there watching The Office for a while. And now it was the fall, so it was like kind of cold out. So, they were all wearing hoodies, as was I, because that was like my main outfit. I mean, it still kind of is now, but especially back then, my main outfit was just like a hoodie every day. But all three of the girls were also wearing hoodies. And then eventually, Ellie takes hers off. And now you're probably thinking, why is this fucking idiot even mentioning that a girl took her hoodie off? Like, oh my God, Rainey saw a girl take her hoodie off. That's fucking insane. But the reason I bring it up is because she did it, and then the other two did it like almost in sync right after they saw that she did. And neither of them were like wearing shirts underneath. They were just wearing like bras. And they just like don't say anything. They don't even look at me. They all just take off their hoodies and are just sitting there in bras. And I'm just kind of like, I'm tweaking at this point. So I'm like, do they like forget I'm here? Do they not notice that there's just like this random fucking guy sitting between them? Do they not care? Because like, especially keep in mind that like, these girls are Mormon girls, and for those of you who don't know, it's like kind of a thing in the Mormon religion that like you're not supposed to like have sex or do any sexual things before you're married. Like you're not even supposed to date until you're 16. It's kind of weird, but it's like it kind of struck me as weird because I'm like I'm sitting here with these three Mormon girls, and they just like they just took their shirts off, and I'm kind of confused. And now, obviously, I'm not going to, like, look at them and have, like, my fucking eyes pop out of my head and hit a fucking, like, awooga sound effect. Like, I'm just trying to ignore it. I'm just trying to watch The Office. So I just, like, look forward and watch The Office. But unfortunately, ignoring it didn't save me from the situation at hand because they kept going. And again, Ellie did it first, and then the other two did it almost in sync directly after her. They took their pants off. And I'm still trying to ignore it, and they're not looking at me. They're just, like, doing these things, like, almost casually, and I'm just watching the show, but I'm tweaking, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is happening? Do they genuinely not remember that I am here? What is happening? And as I'm sitting there, fucking bugging out, I just see, like, all three of their bras just get, like, tossed towards the screen. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And I hear Ellie, or one of them, I don't remember who fucking said it, but one of them said, like, are you even going to look at us? And I'm just like, what? And as I say what, I'm still looking at the screen. Like, I'm trying to pretend like I don't see shit, right? And as I'm doing that, I think they realize that. So they all stand up and they stand in a line in front of the screen. And they are all wearing nothing but underwear on the bottom. So at this point, I kind of like look down at the floor and I'm like, what are you guys doing? And one of them, I don't know who, but one of them says like, well, you hopefully, don't you know that Mormons are supposed to have multiple wives? Now, I don't know how that got started. I don't know if this is still a thing. Like, I know my dad doesn't have multiple wives, at least to my knowledge. But there's just like this thing that like, I think maybe it was a thing in the past, but like there's like a stereotype and like a joke that like Mormon men have like multiple wives and like practice polygamy, but I don't know if that's like a common practice thing, but the point is it's like a stereotype and like kind of a joke thing. And I don't know if they thought it was serious or if they were just saying that. But yeah, that was wild. Yeah, if you want to know more about the type of shit that like is kind of like supposedly rumors, but then sometimes does happen, there's actually a show right now. I think it's on Disney Plus called Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Yeah, watch that. You'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. But anyways, after they say this, they all drop their underwear, and now they're completely naked. So I have these 3 girls that I literally thought I was just hanging out with and waiting for more dudes to show up, that I never expected to just get completely naked and stand in front of me. So I'm just standing there, and I'm trying not to look, and they're like, do you like what you see? And I'm just kind of like, like that dumbfounded fucking, like, my brain is fucking fried at this point. I'm like, what the hell do I do? What is happening? And as I'm trying to like, refuse my brain into like being a functional human, and they're standing there, we hear a door open and Ellie jumps and she's like, oh no, it's my dad. Now I'm panicking. So I'm like, oh, okay, fuck. There's 3 naked girls in front of me and her dad's home. That's fantastic. I just say, I'm like, fucking get dressed. And she's like, there's not enough time. You have to go right now. I'm like, I have to go? Like, can I hide somewhere? She's like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, I'm not supposed to have boys over. Like, I can't have boys over if my parents aren't home. Like, you have to go. And as she's explaining this, she and the other 2 are like getting under like a blanket and like covering themselves and just like basically like cuddling up to each other under this blanket and like with only their heads sticking out. But as she finishes explaining that and doing that, I hear her dad yell her name from the top of the basement stairs, and he starts coming down. So I just like fucking jump across the basement and duck under this like big dollhouse thing. And he comes in and he checks on them and he asks how the girls are doing. They say like, oh, we're doing good. And, Ellie just says like, yeah, we're just like watching a show, hanging out. And he's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to make dinner soon. So, are your friends staying for dinner? And she's like, yeah, probably. And she's like, okay, cool. Like, I'll make dinner for you guys. It'll be ready in probably like an hour. She's like, okay, cool. Thanks, Dad. And he goes upstairs. Now, I just wait. I wait because you know how in a lot of houses, or at least houses around me, the way the stairs are set up, like the basement stairs are right under the stairs to like the top floor. So you can hear someone going up stairs, like from the basement almost. So I waited till I heard that sound to hear her dad going upstairs, and I fucking booked it. I hopped up from behind that bookshelf. I ran up the stairs, grabbed my backpack while still in a full sprint, and my shoes. I didn't have time to put those on, and I just ran down the street. And then once I got far enough away from the house, I put my fucking shoes on. And it wasn't that far from my house, so I walked back to my house. And, the weekend goes by. I don't hear from them because I don't have any of their phone numbers, and I don't really want to, talk about it. So I don't. I just kind of exist. I rot away. I play Overwatch. I do my thing. And the weekend goes by. So come Monday, I am dreading Monday morning because not only do I have to go to school and my weekend is over and that fucking sucks, but I have to go back to this church class, which I hate, and I would already be dreading it, but now I have to go and I have to see like Ellie and Kristen and Megan, and I don't want to do that. Fortunately for me, I was a little behind, and so was my mom, so she dropped me off, and I was a little late. So I walked into the class, I kind of just sat wherever. I was fucking tired. I like kind of developed a bit of a cold over the weekend, so, I was feeling sick. I just sat down and basically laid my head down and just like fucking died at this desk. There's this dude sitting next to me. We're going to call him Peter. And this Peter guy, he like very openly had like a big crush on Kristen. And that's important because of what he asked me next. He like whispered to me, he's like, bro. And I'm like, what, dude? And he's like, I heard you saw Kristen naked. And now I have no idea how he, like, heard that. I don't know if they told him. I don't know what the fuck happened. I didn't bother to ask. I still haven't. But I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, bro, I heard you saw her naked. Like, do you have pictures? Like, show me the pictures, bro. And I'm like, dude, no, I don't have pictures. And, like, I'm not going to show you pictures. I don't have any. Like, one, there are no pictures. And two, that's fucked up. Like, if you have honestly, if you have nude pictures of someone, don't show them to anyone. Like, that's a basic fucking thing. Like, just don't, guys. Like, it's a scummy thing to do. And so, like, I didn't have nude pictures of Kristen, obviously. But even if I did, I wasn't going to show them to this guy. And so I told him that. I'm like, dude, I don't have any, like, pictures of Kristen. I don't have any pictures in general of Kristen, but if I did, I wouldn't show them to you. Like, that's fucked up. Like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, dude, I know you do. Like, stop hiding this shit from me. Like, come on, show it to me right now. Just really quick. Like, just do it. And he's getting, like, kind of, like, aggressive and annoying about it. So I don't want to deal with this shit. I'm tired. I'm sick. I don't want to be here. So I stand up and I go, like, because I'm going to go look for another seat, you know? And he stands up with me. He's like, dude, get back here. Just sit down. Like, stop being like this. And I'm like, being like what? He's like, just stop being like this. Like, stop being annoying. Just, like, sit down. And he's, like, starts, getting up in my face and stuff. So this might not have been the smartest decision, but I picked up my chair and I just kind of threw it at him. Like, I didn't, like, chuck it at him like a fucking boulder, but, I lightly tossed the chair at him and he fell down. And it made a really loud noise, and everyone in class looked over to see what it was, including the teacher. The teacher was like, Rainey, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sorry, he was being annoying, so I threw a chair at him. And my teacher's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you throw a chair at somebody? You can't do that. And, I just hit him with, like, I'm sorry, he was being really annoying, and I'm tired. And out of nowhere, Peter, this guy on the ground with a fucking chair, just yells, Rainey has nude pictures of Kristen. And, like, the entire class gasps. It was like a courtroom scene in a movie. And the teacher's like, what? And, like, Kristen, I see her across the room. She looks, like, super embarrassed. Like, she's, like, bright red. The teacher's like, Rainey, is this true? And I'm like, no, it's not true. I don't have any pictures of Kristen. And this Peter guy's like, yes, he does. He's lying. He does. And the teacher looks at Kristen. And he's like, does he? Is there any reason he would? And Kristen is, like, super embarrassed and stuttering. She's like, no, like, at least he shouldn't. I hope not. I don't think so. And the teacher just, like, he storms away from the front. He's like, Rainey, come with me right now. And so I follow him out of the room. He takes me into this office and he sits me down. And he's like, this is really, really serious, right? Like, this is really bad. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't have any pictures of Kristen, like, period, point blank. Naked or regular, I have none. I will even show you my camera roll. And I open the camera roll on my phone. It's just a bunch of, like, random fucking pictures, none of which are Kristen. And this teacher's like, show me your Snapchat. And, like, I didn't have Snapchat at the time. I didn't get it till, like, halfway through high school. So I just tell him, like, I don't have Snapchat. Like, I can't show you my Snapchat. I don't have a Snapchat. He's like, I don't believe you. You're hiding it somewhere. I know you are. And so he calls my mom. Like, he gets on the phone while I'm in the room, and he calls my mom. And he says, like, yeah, we're just having a situation regarding Rainey. It's pretty serious. I need you to come in really quickly. And I can hear my mom just kind of, like, almost, like, I can almost hear her rolling her eyes, like, okay, over the phone. And then, she hangs up, and I got a text from my mom. And she's like, this better be good. I'm going to be late for work. My mom gets there, and she sits down, and she's like, okay, what's going on? And the teacher's like, well, we found out that Rainey has naked pictures of a girl in the class. And my mom just looks at me and she's like, is that true? And I say, like, no, it's not. Like, you can look through my camera roll if you want. I don't have anything. I don't have anything regarding this girl. And the teacher's like, well, we had a student say that he did. And my mom was like, well, like, frankly, I believe my son on this one. Like, I don't think he'd do that. I don't think he'd just have those. Like, I believe him on this one. Like, where are you getting your information? And he said, like, well, another student in our class said he did. And Mom was like, well, can you bring that student here? And, like, why not ask the girl about this? So the teacher leaves the office, and he comes back with Peter and Kristen. And the teacher asked Peter, he says, like, so, like, how do you know that Rainey has these pictures? And he's like, I don't know, like, someone told me. And the teacher was like, okay, well, who told you? And he's like, I forget. I don't remember. But someone told me. I know he does. And my mom just kind of rolled her eyes. And then the teacher turns to Kristen and is like, Kristen, is there any reason that like Rainey would have these photos that you know of? And she was like, no, like I've never taken any photos like that, and like I wouldn't send them to anybody, and like no, he shouldn't have them, like there's no reason, I don't think he does. And I look at her, I'm like, I'm telling you I don't, like I don't have anything, like if you want to look through my camera roll, like feel free, here it is. And I like slap my phone down on the table. And the teacher's like, okay, clearly there's been a bit of a misunderstanding here, but I hope you all understand that this would be very serious, and we do have to take these matters seriously if they do come up, even if it's a false alarm. We can all go back to class now. The teacher stands up and he kind of motions, for Peter and Kristen to go back to class. And he's like, come on, Rainey, let's go back to class. And my mom stands up. She's like, no, I'm actually going to take my son home for today. And the teacher's like, oh, okay, that's all right. And mom's like, yeah, I know it is. And then she leaves, and I follow her. And, that was pretty cool on my mom's part. I think I skipped, like, the next week of this church class. And then when I ended up going back, the teacher was always, like, super, super nice to me. And it was kind of funny, actually. But, yeah, that would be the end of the story had yesterday not happened. Keep in mind, this is like 6 years later after this had initially happened. Yesterday, I'm working. I work at a movie theater, for those of you who don't know. And, it's a busy night, so we have a lot of people coming in, and I'm running through a lot of the people on till. And, I don't know if any of you guys have had this, but sometimes you're like, you're at your job, or you're out in public, and you make eye contact with someone you went to school with, and you kind of both mentally decide, like, yeah, I know you, you know me, but, like, we're not going to do this. We don't got to have a conversation. We don't got to catch up. We're not like that. So I made eye contact with Kristen in the line at work. I saw her in line to see a movie, and I thought it was going to be the same thing. I thought I was going to have, a regular customer interaction with her, and it wasn't going to go further than that. But I was wrong. When she got up to the till, she was like, hey, like, long time no see. I'm like, yeah, it's been a bit. Like, how have you been? It's like, oh, I've been good. How are you? I'm like, yeah, I've been chilling. She's like, so are you just in town, or like you just visiting for a bit? And I'm like, I'm working my job, so I don't know why she'd ask that. But I'm like, yeah, no, like I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. And she's like, cool. Like, I saw you did a lot of traveling. I'm like, yeah, I did. I went to a couple places, and I tell her like the places, and she's like, that's awesome. Like, I want to do some traveling. I'm like, yeah, you should. It's cool. Then she asked me, she's like, oh, are you still with, and then she says my girlfriend's name after like stuttering. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I have been for almost like 3 years now. She's like, oh, that's awesome. And like, she seems like she's congratulating me, but she also seems a little disappointed. Like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, guys, and be like, oh yeah, like all the girls want me. Like, that's not the case, but I'm just telling you how her voice sounded. And, I ring her through, she pays for all her stuff. And she's like, hey, well, it was great catching up with you. I'll see you around, hopefully. I'm like, yeah, like, I'll see ya. Nice seeing you again. She's like, yeah, you too. It was great. And she walks away and she goes to her movie. Now, I kind of forget about this interaction as the night goes on. I have a lot more customers. I have a lot more work to do. But then after work, I drive home. And as I park my car at my house, I see that there's new messages, like, on my phone from Instagram. So I open them, and it's, you guessed it, Kristen. And I read the messages, and it just says, like, hey, I don't remember I don't know if you remember that one time that we hung out a couple years ago, and then things got weird, but, like, we kind of want to try that again, the three of us, and, like, you're welcome to bring your girlfriend if she's interested, but, like, we've always wanted to try it, and we haven't tried it again since then, but if you're ever interested, like, let me know, and we'll get something together. So, without saying it, it sounded like she was basically inviting me to a fucking orgy. Or, I mean, maybe not that. Maybe she's just, like, saying, like, hey, if you ever want to do, like, I guess, fivesome, would be the number, then let me know, which was really fucking weird. And then there was a picture attached to it. And it was a picture of the three of them, Ellie, Kristen, and Megan, nowadays, completely naked. It had a caption that said, like, for old time's sake, with a winky face. So I blocked the chat, and I've left it since then. It's like, honestly, all three of them were nice people, and if I saw them out in public, I wouldn't mind talking to them or anything. Like, I have no personal beef with them. But this is just weird. Like, I don't want any part in this. If you're gonna do this, that's cool, but keep it to yourself. I don't want to be part of it. But yeah, that's pretty much the story time. Sorry it was a long one. This is literally a half-hour story time. This might be my longest story time on the channel, actually. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you made it to this point, thank you for making it to this point. Leave a like if you enjoyed the story time. Subscribe if you're new. You all know the drill at this point. At least I hope you do. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all so very much. Last time I checked the sub count, we were at 599. We were just about to hit 600 subscribers. That's insane. Thank you guys so much for everything. I could not be doing this without you, and I love you all so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.